Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dynasty Six Pack. Hope you're all on your best behavior because we'll be talking about Dynasty Best Ball for this great episode, so stay tuned. Talking best ball, that might have been my best intro yet. Of course, the show is not complete with only me, Kyle Senra, also joined by my great co-hosts, Rahul Natarajan. How you doing, Rahul?
Kyle, I'm doing very well. I think I do have to agree that was the best intro so far. But another great episode, another format that I unfortunately have not played before, so I'm yet again excited for a master class, especially from one of our own who's in quite a few Dynasty Best Ball leagues, as I gather. But doing great, Kyle. Very excited, and how's it going, Jamie, as well?
The best possible person to talk about Dynasty Best Ball has to be our esteemed co-host, Jamie Perog. Jamie, are you ready to go on a best ball rampage?
I'm going to do my best to explain everything that I know.
Way to give it your best accent on the best. You got to do it every time you say best ball this episode. Okay. I will put that kind of pressure on you. But before we get started, take some pressure off a little bit. We don't have to get right into the topic, but to let people know, there's fantasy6pack.com, a great website. Right now, tons of articles are being released, projections. Joe just put out a new cheat sheet tool, or a cheat sheet app, I should say. So there's some great stuff happening with the Fantasy Six Pack website. And so check out fantasy6pack.com. Our draft guide article series, it's well underway. I've already had 3 of my articles published: Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, and Jacksonville Jaguars, just asking some fantasy football questions, and various questions for each team, and give some good fantasy football discussions. But it's an entirely great series. So yeah, all that can be found at fantasy6pack.com. We have the Fantasy Six Pack Discord as well, so check out that as well for different tiers of memberships for different perks. And of course, the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube page, which is where we're live here right now, but we're not the only show. There's a lot of great content, so be sure to subscribe. Subscribe to the audio podcast as well if you are just listening to audio. But for those who want to check out the video, check out the different images that Jamie rampages through for his background every week. Be sure to head over to the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube page, and if you're here live, you can chat with us in the comment section. Man, I was doing my best, not so much. I used it up all the good technique on the juju. But Mason
Riley. What's up, Mace?
Yeah, talking. Says, "What's up, guys? Discord is awesome. Great conversations in there, and we're ready for some great conversations here tonight." But I guess the first thing to cover is, what are we talking about best ball? We'll give our best little run through quickly. Essentially, there's going to be 2 major things we'll compare to a lot, and I guess maybe going forward in the rest of the show, if we need to kind of discuss these things, we'll be better equipped to do it when we're referring to lineup leagues or best ball leagues. Lineup leagues, it's in the name. Conventional fantasy football, where you set lineups every week. You choose who your starters are. In best ball, it says that you get the best production automatically every week. Every team, their best lineup is automatically set for them every week. So you don't actually know your starters until the week is over. You see all the scores of the results. But the idea is, in best ball leagues, it's not about setting lineups. It's taking that element out of it, and your optimized lineups are there. It's all about roster building. Now, in typical redraft, that's incredibly important because that's all you get most of the time. Right? I mean, Jamie, I know you do a lot of redraft best ball drafts as well. I don't think there's any leagues where you actually manage your roster, right? If it's redraft best ball, it's just draft, and that's your team the rest of the year. So you better hope you're drafted well and your position roster constructed well.
Yeah, another thing that's different is usually best balls are overall points at the end of the season. In Dynasty Best Ball, you actually go head to head.
Well, I was about to say, Jamie, what are, I guess that's the first section of the episode.
Okay.
What are the big differences between redraft and dynasty best ball? What's the big distinction of dynasty best ball?
We're going to be talking about it all episode, but it's about like dynasty best ball. It's not the kind where you just draft and then disappear. We're going to be talking about leagues where you can actually trade. You can use waivers, and then you still get the best lineup set automatically each week. So like think dynasty, think best ball, but also think like full GM control without that lineup stressing. So we're going to be breaking down like how to draft, how to build, how to trade, how to waiver shark your way. It's an awesome, like a Frankensteinish type format.
Well, I was gonna say, are you a best ball monster with all the best ball leagues that you draft in, going on that rampage again? I'm gonna keep hammering that metaphor home. Apparently,
I mean, I feel like, sorry to interject right there, but I feel like you got to give a little context of the rampage, because I don't know. I think the viewers, like myself, might have thought that was Donkey Kong, and maybe Rampage is just a pun that's going over everyone's heads.
Rampage, it was a game back in the day, and I think it was like regular Nintendo even. The idea was to climb buildings, and on your way up, you're smashing the windows, and you're trying to get to the top, which is what you want to do in best ball. You want to climb your way to the top and, reach that ceiling.
Damn, JB, you're in great form today. I was already going to say you've already sold me the way you talked about not having to worry about lineups, but really lead into the GM side of building teams. And you already had sold me about Dynasty Best Ball just your first 20 seconds. But yeah, man, I'm even more excited for this one now.
You got 2 stories in, and he's already like, that's the best thing I've ever seen.
Exactly. 2 out of 2.
To be fair, Rahul, I think that's a common thing I've heard a lot from people, and I wonder if the idea of people being in too many leagues comes from, in the off season it's easy to join a new league, right, and manage it through the off season, but the real headache is in season, and a lot of people tend to complain about lineups. So it's the idea that you can join a lot of best ball leagues. I guess, JD, we could start there. How many dynasty best ball leagues are you in, Kirk?
I'm only in 3 because I just started doing this format because I was in 20 some leagues, and I was like, I want to keep joining more, but I don't want to keep setting lineups every single Sunday and Thursday and Monday. So it gave me a new way to create a league that I can keep joining, and I'll eventually probably add 10 more.
Eventually, we'll get there. I suppose it's the redraft best ball that you're numerous in the hundreds.
Oh, I do probably. hundreds of redraft best balls.
So you're always about drafting, right? And I guess it's the idea of, again, what I guess a lot of people perceive as the fun parts of fantasy football: drafting, and if you like dynasty, trading. It's the 2 central components, it seems like, of a lot of best ball leagues.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the dynasty best ball with the waivers and trade, what makes it different. So in my opinion, dynasty best ball with trading and waivers, it gives you the roster flexibility of dynasty, but the scoring simplicity of the best ball, and that changes everything. So you don't have to set lineups. And what matters the most to me is those spike potentials that normally you would leave on your bench, that they're going to be put into your lineup that week. So you got to pay attention to also injuries, players who could possibly see target increases, even if it's just for 1 week. Trades for those weapons, especially mid-season when injuries start to expose other people's thin rosters. You could exploit your competition. Not really much difference from normal types of trading in regular leagues, except depth wins leagues more in this format, since those high scoring bench pieces will make it to your lineup.
And I know last week when we did the auction episode, we kind of left a question section at the end, but Jamie went through such detail in terms of how we'd section this episode out that some of the questions Rahul and I had were, we'll answer this here. But I do think one of the questions Rahul put in the show sheet about consolidating players and multiple pieces, better players, I thought that was really pertinent, and maybe it's actually is a good time to ask that.
Yeah. So Jamie, I was a question that I had in mind just thinking about this format is, do you still view like consolidating multiple pieces into like fewer, better players as the ideal strategy? Is one may do in a lineup league, especially with, depending on the number of starters, but that's generally what I tried to do in lineup leagues. So do you still have that same take, or is it a little bit different because of the best ball format?
So you're saying like trade
In
two players
like,
for one?
yeah,
Or I mean,
exactly.
but like, so like say like if I had Nico Collins and I can trade Nico for Odunze and Worthy.
Well,
Normally,
I would try to do the Odunze Worthy and get Nico Collins, but is it a little bit different in best ball? Yeah.
well, yeah, best ball, like Nico and Odunze could have the same type of week, 1 week, right? But
Mhm.
you're also adding the possibility of Worthy spiking.
Yeah.
So I like getting the more assets rather than having like a top heavy.
Because the
I
idea
wonder
of
if,
a Nico
yeah.
Collins is you're in a lineup league, you're never going to take him out of your lineup, right?
Mhm.
So, like, you're going to capture all his spike weeks anyway, but the risk of you might, the weeks he doesn't produce well, like he's in your lineup and it's maybe less than optimal. But the idea of benching Nico Collins seems so absurd that like you wouldn't do it. And maybe someone has the great strategy to know when those down weeks come. A guy like a Dunze, are you playing him every week? Are you not? The guesswork is kind of taken out of it. Like in a sense, like
Worthy,
guys like a Dunze become more valuable in best ball because there's like the downside weeks you don't absorb into your lineup, and the spike weeks you're going to capture them all. You don't have to guess there. So I've always kind of also heard that is like the conventional way with best ball is you are going to tend to lean more on the quantity over quality types of trades, getting the two assets for the one elite asset. But as we always say, number of starters is super important because if it's a start 8 best ball league, you still probably want to consolidate, right? But in a start 10 lineup league, you might be thinking consolidation, whereas in the start 10 best ball, that's where you might already be thinking depth. So I think like the number of starters where you start thinking depth is more important might just be a higher threshold, or you're more likely to do it in best ball with even fewer starters.
That makes complete sense. Like number of starters is kind of that limiting factor because then I was kind of lost in the ideas like why wouldn't you ever try to split up like an elite piece, but then there might be a certain number of starters that hit your lineup where it makes sense. But
never have any good players. That's the best ball way. But do we, JB, you want to start talking about a draft? Because I mean, if you're starting a new best ball league, you're going to start with the startup draft, right? So is that where we start off here?
Yeah, so like I wrote like the draft strategy, like upside wins, but don't forget about like positional value. And I just want to remind everyone, the first thing you need to do, always check scoring, the rules, roster construction. I had a guy who didn't know it was a third round reversal, and he was like, "Well, why didn't I get my second pick at the end of the round?" I was like, "Because it's the third round reversal." Another, like, he didn't see the roster construction where I only start like one at each position and then like 5 flexes. And he drafted 4 straight running backs. So I messaged him and I'm like, "Hey, you should look at the roster construction because you only need 1 running back technically." So he thanked me and I could have let him go, but I was being nice. But anyway, so like when you draft in this format, it's not really just about the spike weeks. And then like call it a day. So like most people in best ball, they draft those spikes, but here you want to roster both explosive and also tradable pieces in this format. Like the keys of the draft would be youth plus ceiling plus liquidity. So like that means drafting players you can that are going to score you a bunch, but also players that could be flipped mid-season for other assets. Like I avoid drafting dead weight because you can't hide guys on your bench. Like if they aren't scoring or getting value, they're just wasting a spot. So you can just get rid of them. And I like to stack strategically. Best ball, especially, it like rewards those weekly ceilings, right? So if you're stacking a quarterback and you have 2 or 3 of those wide receivers on that team, that could be sneaky lethal because, let's say Nico has a down week, right? And you have Higgins on your bench. bam, Higgins automatically gets put in. Same if you have the slot guy. What's his name? Christian Kirk
Well, it could be Christian Kirk, could
or
be Jalen
Noel.
Noel.
Jalen
Yeah.
Noel.
So
Dalton Schultz. I mean, it doesn't always have to just be receivers too. You can cross stack as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, like, I get questions a lot, like, well, I have two of the same receivers on the same team, so I'm going to try to trade one. But in this best ball format, that's a good strategy to have. I avoid like those wide receiver 3 types that are only going to get you 9 to 10 point ceilings. Like, that's also a kind of a waste. But I do target like those wide receiver 3 or 4 types that gives you a chance to like house it for a 70-yard bomb on one catch. So think like those speed guys, like like a Tutu Atwell type that no one's really paying attention to. Andre Isovis, possibly, or even like yak guys, Wandale Robinson's. Alec Pierce, yeah, that's a good one. Even like the trick play guys, like gadgety types. You remember Laviska Shenault from back in the past? Like maybe someone like him, or like recently, like Demario Douglas would be a good one. Even like the Mitch Max guys, like you just brought up, Alec Pierce he is completely being ignored in Dynasty. So I would love to have him on my rosters, and even like a Trey Tucker.
Dante Thornton getting a lot of hype right now. Perfect for basketball.
Yeah. So is there any guys you could think of that are kind of fit that mold?
Yeah, sorry. But Jameson, I was just thinking about Jameson Williams the whole time there. Like
our thumbnail image, right? Like that was something Jamie and I discussed of who to put on the image this week. And Jamie, I think you named about 4 players, and Jameson Williams might be like one of the poster child. So he's not like these other guys we mentioned up to this point have all been like, okay, late round depth pieces. Like Williams, you're drafting as a starter in the starter range, but he's probably someone you're more comfortable drafting in best ball than you are in lineup. Would that be fair to say, Jamie?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's other guys. Rashad Bateman is another best ball. I can't think of any more on top of my head, but I'm sure I will later on.
But you said Marvin Mims, I think, was in the chat. You and I said back and forth.
Marvin Mims is a great one.
And just to have a Packers player, I guess sure the Packers have, but Jayden Reed.
All the Packers receivers. Really
every single one of them, actually. Yes,
every single one of them.
You never know where love's going to go in that one game. You got to love it.
I wonder, I mean, it's easier to see why wide receivers, like we've went through all wide receivers, whether on purpose or coincidentally, but it's easier to see like how they can be spike week players that are hard to trust in lineups. But how do you handle like the running back position? Is there any difference in the running back position in basketball?
I think I was going to talk about this later in another segment, but running backs, I want all the backups. Give me all the backups, like even the third string guys, because when the first string guys go down, there's going to be most likely some kind of a committee type between the 2 and the 3, and maybe even the 4th guy gets some, like Pierre Strong. Example, a few years ago, he won me a championship. I had to put him in my lineup because I had no one else.
Was this Patriots Pierre Strong or Browns Pierre Strong?
It was on the Browns, I believe. Yeah. So, but yeah, like
give us a reference of year.
I always
was that the year Chubb tore his ACL, and then later Ford got hurt, and so they were kind of.
It was not last season, but the season before that, I believe.
So yeah, I think so. I think that's how it all happened, right? Chubb tears his ACL like week 2. Ford's going, but then Ford eventually gets hurt as well, and then late in the season when you need someone, Pierre Strong was a strong option.
Yeah,
like I guess the idea in lineup, we've talked about RB depth important. I mean, as we get to rookie drafts, we'll talk about that too. But like the ends of rookie drafts just being super heavy on running back, we've talked about that a lot. And I guess with the lineup, it's okay. Starting running back gets hurt, the next week you can kind of the backup can have a role that you can predict and see and know when to start them for that. But that doesn't necessarily help you the game that the starting running back gets hurt. Whereas the best ball league will, like that backup running back that gets that spike in touches the week that the starting running back gets injured in the first quarter, no one would have had that week. Like that's like those are those types of weeks that kind of get captured by the backup running back. The other weeks where we know that backup is now the starter, like we'll maybe capture those in lineups, but it's those the week the injury happens, when mid-game injuries, those are the ones where they don't get captured. And like that could be the game where, the following week when we know the starter's hurt, third, second string guy, we'll split them more. We'll prepare it for that. But that initial shock of when it happens, that second string guy might just get all the carries the rest of that game when the starter gets injured. And then, okay, well, we have time next week to reevaluate and split more efficiently. So sometimes the biggest spike weeks for those backup running backs are the ones where no one starts them because it's the starter gets hurt so early in a game that they're a workhorse for that game. And we're chasing that the next few weeks in lineups. And sometimes you hit them. Best ball allows you to get that injury riddled week.
Or like Achan, this first breakout week when I think he scored like 50 PPR points, like one of the top fantasy performers all time.
The game against Denver after doing very little to nothing the week before.
Exactly. I mean, Mostert did score 40 in that game as well, but
himself, so.
no one in the world would have started Achan in that week. So, or like Jordan Mason,
the best ball people. They would have. Oh man, we captured that. We got that week. Like that.
Yeah, I think this is something that. Sorry, Jamie, cut you off, but I think there's something that like Scott Connor, Ray GQ, they talk a lot about like replacement player value over like replacement player, and when you're trading, you really want to make sure like you actually capture or war wins above replacement. War, they talk about war, and you really want to capture like the games that those running backs actually spike in value and hit your lineups, and otherwise it's you're like not really capitalizing on that value. Yeah, so sorry, it's a tangent because it is a different way to look at building your team in best ball.
Yeah, I agree. Did you guys want to move on to the rookie drafts or what was your next?
For sure. So startup draft strategies is that in a more conventional startup draft, at a certain point, it probably hurts you to go too deep at running back or wide receiver. Mm-hmm. You want to just be taking depth shots at running backs, maybe even some backup quarterbacks in lineup leagues, positions where it's a more clear one starter to the next. There's there's going to be 3 receivers, sometimes 4 receivers on the field at the same time. So it's tough to know, even if one guy gets hurt, that the next guy up is going to absorb all those targets. At running back, you kind of see, okay, that backup coming in, they're going to get most of the carries. Backup quarterback, they're going to be out there getting all those throw-in opportunities. So those are 2 positions to maybe be a lot deeper at in the lineup. Not that you can't be, depth at those positions is probably still important in best ball, but your depth at wide receiver in lineup can really hurt you, whereas at the opposite, it can really help you in best ball. Is that a fair kind of assessment on draft strategy? You're just willing to take more depth shots at wide receiver?
I mean, I like both, like balancing it out. So like I said, like those wide receiver 3 types that normally probably be on waivers, normal leagues, like the 2-2s and people like that. But I also like to draft backup quarterbacks. Not even if it's not just mine. Mm-hmm. Like give me Mac Jones.
Joe Milton is my backup quarterback this year.
You know who I really like this year? Maybe this is more a redraft than a dynasty thing, but Tyrod Taylor.
Yes. Taylor
for Justin Fields, he's maybe going to be one of the better backups.
He runs too. Yeah.
Yeah. That's that. So if he ever gets the opportunity, there's like some high variance for fantasy football.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like hoarding. If you're in like a deeper roster, say you have like 30 roster spots, 35. Yeah, get them backups. Sam Howell is a great one. Mm-hmm. I picked him up in one of my recent ones very, very late. And after the draft, the guy offered me his 3rd round pick for him. And I'm like, yeah, why not?
Well, he's not a rookie, but the second year quarterback who's never started in the NFL before, coming off a serious knee injury. Like that's not a bad idea to hedge that, because Howell's on the Vikings, right? I didn't just make that up.
Yeah, Vikings. That's the only reason I was interested in them. Because we saw guys like Joshua Dobbs, Nick Mullins. Weren't they top 10 in that offense? Darnold.
Sam Darnold last year.
They all had spike seasons. Yeah.
And I mean, just thinking of Darnold, even if Howell was in Seattle, it's probably still good too, right? Because backing up Sam Darnold, they might get some opportunities.
Yeah. So for like straight rookie talk, like in this format, like you don't need rookies to start fast. You could just, hold them on your roster, and you don't need to cut them, and they'll eventually spike. And when they do boom, like that best score is going to get counted in your lineup. So I target like raw type athletes, kind of like day 2 wide receivers. in that like second, third round of NFL drafts, running backs in what's that word? Ambiguous backfields. So let's say we got Jayden Reed. I know he was rookie last year, but they drafted Ollie Gordon. Like if I had A-Chain, right? Yeah, give me Gordon also, because let's say Gordon gets that touchdown that 1 week. You know, he's going to be put in your lineup, not Jayden Reed.
What if? Sorry.
Okay.
What if Alexander Mattison takes the touchdown that week?
I don't even think he's going to make the roster. And like, are they really going to roster 4 running backs? I don't know.
I watched this interview for the running backs coach, and he was talking about how they're going to divvy up the workload, and he was like Achan, Jalen, and Matt, and I was like, who the hell is Matt on this roster? And then it's like, oh, it's Madison. So didn't mention Gordon. This is from like a month ago, but I don't know. I have to get that in there. Well, Jamie was talking about that, but
so is Alexander Madison in best ball? Is that irony or
just
a magic? Okay.
I guess something I was thinking of though, and perfect for like the Dolphins backfield is like a great example of it. But do you? Maybe I'm segueing from rookie talk, but do you target good offenses more than like players on bad offense? Like Chris Olave is like an example of a guy who probably like is valued higher in lineup than like best ball, maybe because of the offense that he plays in. I don't know, but do you target good offenses?
So like Chris Olave, they're not going to score as many points on the Saints, right? But the Lions, say Jameson Williams, I might have Olave ranked above Jameson Williams in regular Dynasty, but in this format, give me JMO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I actually have JMO ranked higher than Olave even in lineup, but I mean, I would imagine
it's certainly closer. It's certainly way closer.
They're probably within like 5 wide receiver spots of each other. It'd be a bigger gap, I would say, for Williams. But it sounds like, JB, and I just thought of this, so you're willing to handcuff a lot more with your running backs in best ball than you would in lineup.
Yeah, more willing to handcuff them. Plus, I'm willing to take shots on other people's handcuffs too, just in case.
As many backups as possible, whether it's your own or someone else's.
Yeah. So I also in rookie drafts, I love those mobile quarterbacks like Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart guys. I would probably draft them even earlier in a best ball rookie draft. And
I thought Jackson Dart is your 101 already. So.
Yeah, he is. So I mean, I can't draft him any higher.
Keep taking him ahead of Ashton Jensen. Right? Well, I guess maybe 16 teams.
No, in best ball.
Go. We found the format.
Yeah, so maybe I've been targeting Jackson Dart at like the 109, and usually I get them around that 110, 111, 112, sometimes even early second. Like I would probably take Jackson Dart at the 107, 108, like Judkins or Dart.
Terrible offense. Judkins going to be catch passes.
Yeah, and it also got Sampson in that offense and Jerome Ford. Like I love Judkins, don't get me wrong, but I just might take the shot on that mobile quarterback in this format.
If there's tight end premium, are you taking shots on Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland for that same type of spike week pass catching upside over those running backs like Harvey and Judkins and maybe even Travion Henderson? Are you considering those tight ends, especially in tight end premium?
Yeah, maybe not Henderson. I'd probably take Warren over Henderson, but not Loveland.
Okay. So That's thanks. That's a good idea, because if we've talked so much about wide receivers, but I think that also does apply to tight ends to a certain extent. And I guess how much we love Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren, I guess it makes sense those are the first 2 tight ends we talked about today.
Yeah, and then also another thing is like watch for like the changing usage, like not just the box score, right? So if you notice someone that's young, that's coming into the league as a rookie, and you see that he's maybe 1 week got more routes per run than the previous week, maybe go and target that guy. So like buy the youth before the breakout, I guess, or you even use those waiver wires to cycle through those high ceiling flyers, and just like,
because it's possible. To give like an example, like let's say like a young wide receiver, like week 2 of the season breaks out with like 20 points, but it's like 4 targets and like, a long touchdown, and, in lineup leagues, I might be like, okay, I'm gonna try and sell on this like the hype that's built, but like in best ball, maybe it makes sense just because maybe they're already valued because of like how high their ceiling potential can be when they do have a spike week, I guess.
Yeah, completely. Who was that one guy? He would score a whole bunch of points week 1, multiple years in a row, and just fall off. Do you know what I'm talking about? Was it maybe a Chiefs player? Maybe that's gonna bug me now. I can't remember who it is.
Well, I would encourage folks, if you're watching either live, leave us in the live comment, but after the fact too, if you can figure that out, leave it on the comments.
There could be a lot of answers there, so let's see the one that
James we'll go through them on the next episode. There we go.
All right. So I mean that's pretty much all I have about rookie drafts. Just buy the youth before the breakout, and get those raw athletes that can get spike weeks, and running backs that are in those ambiguous depth charts. So like Taj Brooks. Man, give me Taj Brooks, man.
I would say I'm drafting a lot of those running backs in lineup as well. Like that's what a lot of my fourth round picks have been, is the shots at those running backs.
But the fun part is like if he's a 30% snap guy, maybe 1 week he gets you 12 to 15 fantasy points. And that's a flex play right there.
I guess the one thing is, though, because those guys, because I like just populating my fourth round picks with those backup running backs, I tend to ignore the wide receivers in that tier. Like I think I've got 11 wide receivers for this rookie class worth drafting in lineup. So to me, the Ty Felton and Pat Bryant and like those tiers of guys, like I've got so many running backs ahead of them that I'm not drafting them. I don't view them as worthy of fourth round picks because there's just so many other running backs I'd rather just take the shot on. I could see the appeal of taking fourth round shots on them. Does it make more sense to draft wide receivers in these second, third rounds? I know kind of hijacking one of your questions, Rahul, but it kind of got me thinking.
Perfect. I was looking for a good segue to asking it, so perfect.
Do you want to ask it better? Did I do a good job?
Well, I mean, just like how do you like value like later picks, like late seconds, thirds, fourths? Like, does it change? Does it change based on the format? I think Kyle like brought up like a perfect example of like a change in the strategy you might employ with like those later picks. Like I might want to take like Dante Thornton instead of like Jordan James, for example, who's like maybe a third string running back on the team, because like at that point, then I don't want to risk carrying a true zero over Dante Thornton, who might score a 60-yard touchdown in any given week. But like how is your late round strategy change, and how does it change how you value those later round picks?
I mean, I want all the later guys, like Savion Williams. I wouldn't want him in a regular dynasty league, but give him to me in a dynasty best ball, because who knows? Like who's going to be catching passes besides Reed, right? Dudes is on
Tesla.
Is he even on that team? No, he's on a Lions. We're talking
Tesla's on the Lions. So
like if you get Savion off waivers after the draft, and let's say they trade Romeo Doubs, I mean, does Savion Williams, is he the number 2 receiver? I mean, Christian Watson's not coming back, right?
Well, he's like a gadget guy who's extremely explosive, right? It doesn't even need to play like wide.
And those are the type I mentioned earlier that I kind of go for, and even like a Ricky White. I'm not interested in Ricky White in regular dynasty, but in a dynasty best ball, what if he is the number 2? Well, they got Cooper Kupp now, but what if he, besides Cooper Kupp and JSN? I know they got Horton, but what if Ricky White steps up?
Yeah. So how does this change how you like make trades? Like to go back to like the Olave example, it seems like a player I'm probably not targeting in best ball. Do you trade Olave for like a pair of late seconds? Like how I don't know. Is that where your like valuation goes, or like how do you?
Well, I guess we're talking the trading section now.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, good transition, Rahul.
Yeah. But like how's your trade value?
Hello, Albert, by the way.
What's up, Albert?
As always, appreciate the support. And we're talking Dynasty Best Ball, and we're just about to talk Dynasty Best Ball trading. So go ahead, Jamie. I'll stop.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would trade Olave for 2 late seconds. I would rather have like an early second, which is kind of where I mean, Olave is probably a late first, right?
Yeah, late first, like early second, late first.
So give me an early second and maybe a third rounder.
But
would you rather, that flyer.
Yeah, but would you rather that makes sense.
Yeah, I might push back on Olave being worth a late first. I don't know. I think it'd be really difficult to get a first for Olave.
Yeah, but would you? So I do Jayden Higgins or Burden, or would you rather have? Oh man, like Bashal, Tootin, and I hate the end of this draft, but like Bashal, Tootin, and I don't know, like Dylan Sampson, right?
So either Bashal, Tootin, Sampson for who?
I think I said like Jayden Higgins, Burden, like Trey Harris is a bad example. He's great. He feels like good at best ball, but
I mean,
I don't know. I'm
you can argue that
how your mind works in trading in best ball versus lineup.
I mean, there's not like much of a difference, but you want to buy volatility and sell stability. Does that make sense? So if you're getting steady 11 points a week from one guy, flip him to a contender and get a guy like Jameson Williams, Quentin Johnston, even. That feels so gross saying. But still, he's
that better be a plus.
He would be a good best ball type guy, Quentin Johnston.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned earlier, Rashad Bateman, players who may be frustrating to manage in lineups, but they're gold in this best ball types.
Is it time for the Canadian Joshua Palmer on the Bills? Is that?
Yeah. I mean, I love Palmer, man. I would get him.
Would you take Keon Coleman in a best ball? Now I'm going with another Bills player.
I don't want Coleman, but
that's too.
He is that type of player that you could see rostering more in a best ball than in
so that's so delicate.
I
if my roster size is long enough, I'd love to roster all of the Bills receivers because that's a great offense. You have no clue who the ball is, who's going to catch the possibly multiple touchdowns. Like Mac Hollins is probably a great waiver wire pickup in skipping topics. Waiver wire Mac Hollins pick him up, he catches 2 touchdowns.
Well, didn't he just join the Patriots, or was he just on the Patriots and now on the Bills? I'm confused.
No, he went from the Bills to the Patriots this offseason.
Okay, but you're in addition to all the Bills players, Hollins is still a good because you trust Drake May through a certain.
No, I just meant the archetype of the Bills receivers where you don't know it's such a spread out offense, but it's possibly it was the highest scoring offense in the league last year, projected highest this year. I wouldn't mind taking multiple shots at those wide receivers in that room to have the one Bills receiver who goes off start in my lineup in a week,
So I'm also I buy injured players or players that are kind of in a slump. So in lineup leagues, that's people panic on players like that, right? But in best ball, you don't need them today. You just need them when they're back and explosive, like Brandon Ayuk. I would probably buy Brandon Ayuk in a best ball format because I don't have to put them in.
That felt good. That felt good to me. Thank you.
So an example from last year. People might have gave up on Jonathan Taylor when he got injured early, right? Mm-hmm. But those who bought him and bought the dip, those players won championships.
Right.
Could you imagine buying Puka Nacua last year after he got hurt?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So I also avoid trading for those floor players, though. Don't give up future assets for a guy who's just going to give you that 9 to 10 point stability. Trade for players who are going to win you a week twice in a year at least. And that's enough for me. If they can get in your lineup twice a year, if it's a later type pick or waiver wire guy, give me that all day over the 9 to 10 points every week.
Well, you mentioned the wonderful word waiver wire. So do you approach best ball waiver wires differently than you would lineup waiver wires? And that can go for Dynasty or redraft as well.
I mean, this is where it gets fun. And in regular best ball, waivers don't exist, right? But in this format, they can win you weeks. and sometimes even titles. Like, so here's how to handle that. Like, when I'm looking at waiver wires, if I have an open roster spot, I'm gonna look for the running back handcuffs for like other people's starting running back. So in case their running back gets hurt, then they go next week to look for that guy. I already have him. So like in this format, like if you do it, you want running backs to get injured in this format, but not in real life, obviously. Like we're not wishing injuries on anyone, but when that starter does go down and you scoop up that backup, now you got like free spike weeks, and that's awesome. Like, so, for example, I would pick up Keaton Mitchell and Justice Hill, Sean Tucker is a good one.
Actually, Justice Hill is a fantastic one. It feels like those pass catching running backs. You never know when the game script sets up where they catch a ton of passes. The goal line guys like Sean Tucker, I mean, if Bucky Irving gets hurt, you can kind of say, okay, in the lineup, I know I'll play Sean Tucker that week. But like Justice Hill's role is so much different to Derrick Henry that if Derrick Henry were to ever get hurt, it's not necessarily a better week to play Justice Hill. Like those guys, it's tough to predict them. It's easier to kind of predict the plotting running backs that have the early down role. They're either a pure just handcuff backup, or they're getting 12 carries. Like they're not doing anything on offense, or they're getting all the goal line stuff and almost all the carries. Like it goes from 0 to 60 with them. And again, in the middle, the one game they get hurt, you can't predict it. You can predict it a little easier. I love Justice Hill even in lineups, but certainly best ball feels like that's the format to want to chase a guy like Hill.
Yeah, and like grab every single 49ers backup. And then who's that guy? Washington, Chris Rodriguez.
Sure.
I mean,
Nichols. Like, you could take either of them really, and so cheap off waivers, right?
Jacoby Merrick Krosky.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, again, and he caught 7 passes, I think, in a season in college. Like not a pass catcher at all. He seems like pure plotter.
So. I have no idea about this guy.
Yeah. So like normally I wouldn't in regular dynasty. I'm not going after the third or fourth running back on a roster. But in this format, like I'm willing to just put them on my bench for a week, and I could always like spend them later on. But you just never know what's going to happen. And then there's always those wide receiver breakouts too that you find on the waiver wire, right? Like every year, wide receivers emerge out of nowhere. You don't need weekly targets from them, but you're just hoping for 1 or 2 big plays. So like I'm not wasting my fab on a receiver that got 6 catches for 40 yards one week. Like I'm going to spend it on a guy who just had 1 catch for 80 yards because that's the guy that might break open later on your roster.
So, why would you ever want to? Would you ever like take picks on this third late day 2, like 3rd round, 4th round wide receivers in the NFL draft, who may project to be their team's like wide receiver 2, 3 or best, or are you just gonna avoid that tier completely for like pure spike week like big play guys? Because like like Roman Wilson, who I know you love Roman Wilson, but was like Roman Wilson, I couldn't see the profile ever being like, a 15 points per game, like kind of scorer, but he's also not really, was he ever, like a deep threat? Like maybe I'm misprofiling. No. Yeah, but like, would you?
He's more PPR. He's safer. Exactly. So
yeah.
I don't think I would want Roman Wilson in this type of format because like he's only going to get you like that maybe 10. Like his spike week would be 15 points, but normally he's probably going to be like 7 to 10 points.
If he hits, he's going to be like a 10 point per game, 10, 11 point per game receiver.
Yeah.
If he hits, right?
Jamie's also approached this from the perspective he's overloaded in lineup leagues, so it's like, well,
yeah.
I've already maxed out that format. I can avoid him entirely in best ball. And that's fine too, though, right? Like you can approach certain players. Like this player might be better to have in this format as opposed to others. And you can go with that like dynasty to redraft, right? Like, there's some players that at this point in their career can not really interested in having them in Dynasty, but I'll keep taking redraft shots on them. Same thing applies in Dynasty to line up in best ball as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, how aggressive do you want to be on the waiver wire early? Like you see a receiver spike, crazy spike week one, he's on the waiver wire. Are you unloading like 75% of your fab to get them? Or is the depth so important that you've got like clear weekly budgets that you're not going to surpass? And anyone you get underneath that is great, but you're not going to overspend on those guys. How do you approach the waiver
so
budget?
in regular Dynasty, I blow all my fab right away, right after the rookie draft. You've seen me do it. But in this format, I'm going to be smart. I'm going to pretty much save it. I'm not blowing it all early unless it's one of those league-winning type handcuff running backs. Like best ball scoring, it rewards weekly upside, right? Not consistency. So I'm going to bid on players who spike even if they're going to be inconsistent. So I want to play the waiver wire game all year long with the end of my bench players. So yeah, I'm not blowing it all right away.
And your fab budget, right? Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I did just want to say that I blew my fab budget on a Rondé Gatson league. Just read the first waivers, and I that's my first share of Gatson. Yeah.
How much did you, like 100%?
Well, no, I actually spent 50% on Monongai,
I think.
Yeah, Monongai, and then like of the initial budget, 40% on Gatson. Yeah.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
I put 55% on Gaskin in one league, and no one else bid, and I was happy.
No one could drive 55 or drive up the price to 55. I can't make that joke. Let's not get too hangered up on that. Okay.
See, what do we talk about next?
Yeah, so I guess just to back to the question, like when you're saying you want to be smart with your waiver budget, do you have specific percentages that you're okay? Week one, I'm not going higher than this much percent. Again,
going into week one, we haven't seen a game yet, so we don't know. But like after week one, I'll look and see if there's someone that could give you those spike weeks that people are ignoring, and I would probably only go 5% maybe on that player.
I've always kind of like for in season, like especially redraft, I always kind of look at it. Maybe this is really too much. That first week of waivers, we don't know how else everyone else is going to bid. My first kind of inclination is, what's the waiver budget? And then I'm operating like I'm going to win the championship week 17, and I want that. I want enough money that's that week 17. So what's 1/17 of that budget? That's what I'm willing to spend in 1 week. And then once even that first week passes and you see how people are going to bid and what kind of dollar amounts they use, you have a better idea of how to gauge for the league. But my first inclination is always to just, okay, I've got 17 weeks to work with. What's 1/17 of my budget? And start from there when you're kind of bidding blind without knowing how anyone else is going to bid. I guess, are you coming out of a rookie draft? Are you almost just sending $0 bids on the rookies that make it out of rookie drafts, so you don't spend any fab at all, or you're just spending $1 minimum and
that's a
kind
good
of hoping
question.
hoping, and then you save more for after week one, because that's still that right after the rookie draft. That's still part of that pre-week one. We don't know.
Yeah, so right after rookie draft in these formats, I wouldn't blow my budget. I would probably put maybe 10% on Gaston. Hopefully I get them. So maybe $10 out of 100. If I don't get them, oh well. I'm sure I could use that money elsewhere during the season.
You could almost approach it like that's the everything before week one almost counts as its own week. So if you include that, that would be like 18 weeks. So then just again divide that by 18 weeks, and that like whole preseason post rookie draft is all just counts as 1 week. So I've got a certain budget that I can only spend in this time period. And then again, try everything else at $0 fab bids until you keep bidding zero. And if someone bids them up this week, okay, next week I'll try again with another $0 player until you get some.
But it's a format that, I mean, all formats value reward this. But if you can be sharp about like that week one guy who, like, you see something in like the usage or like beyond just like the box score that no one like Tutu Atwell was a great example, right? Like he's always gonna pop up for like those. He could pop up for those long touchdowns, like Cup, Puka could get injured in previous seasons. No one is really looking at Tutu Atwell in lineup leagues, right? But you could get away with like a minimum like a $1 bid on a Tutu Atwell and be rewarded for it in best ball.
Well, it really feels like if you're gonna get Tutu Atwell, you should put a $2 $2 budget.
How do I pass
that? You should go $1. At least go 2 for Tutu.
So, but like after the rookie drafts, let's say Martinez. Damian Martinez is on the waiver. Yeah. I'll throw, since no one drafted him, they're most likely not looking at him right now. I'll throw $1 or $2 on him. And then let's say after week 1 or 2, maybe he's the number 2 instead of Charbonnet, right? What if Kenneth Walker gets hurt? Like I got him for $1 as opposed to having to put like 20% of my budget on a guy that's just sitting there. So like I want to try to get them before they break out.
Again, in lineup leagues, 20% of a budget is nothing because you're typically like there's those waiver wires. The roster's so big, the waiver wires are so barren usually that 20% is nothing to spend on that. But in best ball, because that fab budget is actually so valuable, well, you sometimes if there's a player you really want, sometimes I'll see in a lineup like this player I want. If he gets through, I'm going to try and get him with fab budget. Like I'll get him with the blind bidding waiver dollars. Like, it's easier to do that. Do you find yourself, well, if I really want a player, I'm going to trade up in the 4th round. I'll give up a 4th next year, and I'll figure out how to get that 4th back, and let me just trade back into the 4th so I don't have to spend any fab budget on this player. I'd rather give up a future pick than spend too much fab.
And just worry about that pick later. So I think I did that last year. Wasn't smart about it, but it was for that Javon Baker guy.
Man, you love Javon Baker almost as much as Roman Wilson.
Yeah, so it didn't work out for him, but actually I made a trade today.
I think they both combined for 0 catches. So
yeah. People were taking Javon Baker like in the early 3rd.
No, he fell to the 4th round in the league, and I was like, well, I'll give you my 4-11 and my next year 4th for him. And I took him at like the 401 or 402.
That's the risk. And sometimes we're going to hit on these, but that could have just as easily been a player that turned around and actually gave you, weeks of usability, not just even spike weeks, actually caught a pass, for instance. Like that'll happen. But I guess, Jamie, do you want to get to some of these Dynasty best ball targets? I know we've talked about a few players throughout, but various cost levels of players people should be targeting in best ball.
Yeah, so like I said, like those backup quarterbacks with upside, like Sam Howell is one, Joe Milton we mentioned, but I'm also going after Aiden O'Connell. Younger guy, and I've seen him on waiver wires, and I'm like, I'll put him on the end of my bench because what if Geno gets hurt? And I mean, how long is Geno going to be around for anyway?
But would you target like O'Connell is like statue quarterback on like league below average offense? Like, would you target like it's a backup quarterback, like it's worth nothing, but like Tyrod Taylor versus like O'Connell?
Oh yeah, that was my next one. I'd rather have Tyrod over O'Connell because honestly, you look at Fields, he's more of a risk at being injured, right? His running style and play style,
or benched straight up, like
or bench, yeah. So so Tyrod would be an excellent guy.
Malik Willis on the Packers.
Yeah.
So I love deal with injuries last year, and Willis did kind of pretty all right when he was given the chance.
And like I mentioned earlier, like he's a fast
Ray
guy.
Lance on the Chargers.
Yeah. That one's ugly. That one is ugly.
I mean, I love Jayden Daniels more than anything in the world, other than my wife. But other than anything else, though, can all go to hell compared to Jayden Daniels. Marcus Mariota, though, like, is he that same type of like rushing quarterback where if something forbid happens to Jayden Daniels?
Yep. Yeah, give me that. Like, I'd rather have a guy like
Trubisky on the Bills. Sorry, I'm just looking through my dynasty rankings for my backup quarterbacks, and like these are never been so excited to talk backup quarterbacks.
Whoever the Eagles quarterback is, because like I like targeting backup quarterbacks.
Well, but
like I guess my criteria is will they run, and are they on an offense that's going to score points? So like, I don't even know. Like, it might be Dorian Thompson Robinson right now, or like Tanner.
No, I
McKee.
think that's a third. They drafted someone. I can't remember.
But,
It's
yeah,
not
but-
Will Howard. It's not yours. It's the other guy.
But
Kyle
whoever-
McCord.
Kyle McCord. Like, but I don't really care.
Could be
who it
McCord,
is.
could
If
be
they're
Tanner
throwing
McKee.
if they're throwing to, I guess there might be some competition, but they're throwing to AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, like Saquon Barkley's in the offense, like that could be like it could randomly be a 3-touchdown week for this unknown like Kyle McCord because he has like the best weapons in the league, right?
I mean, like I'd almost rather have like a Sam Howell over Aaron Rodgers, who's going to be starting, because what the heck's Rodgers really going to do?
Right,
But when Sam Howell gets, when Sam Howell, if he does get that shot, he's going to be top 10 numbers, just like everyone
Daniel
else in that
Jones,
offense.
like Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, like both are like perfect best ball targets over like even like mid range like pocket quarterbacks who like have like kind of a like Tyler Shuck, for example. Like, is he really ever going to provide like spike weeks? But like Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, they are, because they run and like
Yeah, and then some receivers. I think you mentioned it earlier. Jayden Reed. I mean, I would love to have Jayden Reed and best ball. Same with Donnie Mitchell.
Mhm.
Like he's that boom bust type monster guy. I mean, we mentioned
Well, I guess
Mario.
we mentioned Alec Pierce a while ago, right? With
Mhm.
Mitchell and
Yeah.
Pierce, that quarterback situation's so ugly. When you ever clicking start on those guys in a lineup league?
exactly.
they're-
Why would you
they'll
even roster
have
them
these
as
weeks
their
that'll be
poggers?
worth-
Yeah.
Winning weeks,
But also,
that's all you get that.
yeah. So like last year, I was looking at Mitchell, and I think he had like 2 games, maybe 3 games with 20+ points.
Probably
so-
Alec Pierce. Probably Pierce, not Mitchell.
It might have been Pierce. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of those, like Pierce or Mitchell.
yeah.
But I also like guys like you mentioned Josh Palmer, Malik Washington.
Mhm.
That's
From
a
Miami.
good one that I would throw.
He
on
might be
end
the
of my
wide receiver
benches.
3 there, yeah.
Yeah,
Man, you
I
could get
also-
so gross with them. Like Alan Lazard would have been great to own last year.
This dude retired. Maybe he was on waivers. Michael Gallup, now that he's on Washington.
Yeah. Huh.
maybe. Yeah, I could. Well, no, because Gallup would be like that 9 to 10 point average. He's not going to give you that spike week, right?
I'm not sure about that. That was
Was
kind
he
of his
not
role
like
with
a deep
Dallas.
threat?
He
Yeah,
kinda-
yeah.
He was more the deep threat on that Dallas team.
Okay, I
There was
thought that
the one year
Brandon
where he had
Cooks.
like 110 targets or something. Like that was a more consistent floor season for him. But that was like, I'm pretty sure that was before they drafted CeeDee Lamb, right? And they kind of had to use Gallup and maybe get him some easier targets and less spike week types of targets. But then as soon as Lamb got there, then Gallup kind of really became like a deep threat for them only, as the possession receivers turned to Lamb and Cooper, and eventually just Lamb because he was taking so many targets. So maybe, I don't know, but we also, he retired last year, right? So what's he going to be like after the year off, right? So maybe there's a little too much risk there.
Like this is not that related, but like Ibuka versus Golden is something that could change completely lineup versus best ball.
Oh yeah, I love those speedy guys like Golden. Give me that all day.
But you're a big.
Yeah,
Huge
I still
Ibuka
prefer
fan, aren't
productive
you?
players.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know. I honestly,
Because I think with the Ibuka, the floor is so low, we don't like. That's not a guy you're ever really going to know when to play in lineups, right? Like there could be spike weeks early, even with Godwin and Evans there, that we're going to be really hard to predict. So I'm not sure about that. I think I'd still keep Ibuka ahead of Gold.
But is he really? But he primarily slot guy, not the biggest yak threat. Like I see more explosiveness with Golden.
Okay, because
compared to Ibuka.
I get the impression that like year one, Godwin's still probably going to be the guy in the slot.
Oh no,
Dynasty.
Dynasty. Like,
but to that point though, like Ibuka could have some sneaky early spike weeks as a rookie when we're not necessarily expecting it because of that, because he's playing on the outside. Maybe that's something where you get these early spike weeks from Ibuka from that role, and then eventually, if Godwin moves on, he moves to the slot. He loses that spike week type of role, becomes more consistent. So you get Ibuka for these early years, and then you sell off that early production, thinking that it might actually not be as good later on in best ball. So back to Jamie's point, you get these players and trying to flip them for a profit. Buka could be that type of player.
Yeah, another guy I was thinking was like Xavier Leggett, because Tet's not going to get every single target every week, right? Can't get 100% of the targets.
I mean, the teams where I have him, I'm definitely hoping that's the case, but I agree that's probably not realistic.
Yeah, so like Leggett would be a guy that people are kind of ignoring right now. I like Wicks and Savion Williams. Like I'll pair them up together and keep.
It
both
took over an hour
in.
for Jamie to mention Dontavian Wicks in a best ball show. That shocked me.
We got dangerously close earlier, but we named every other receiver they had.
Even
Romeo Dobbs was named.
Romeo.
Oh man. So running backs to stash. I love Jalen Wright, like that home run speed, perfect profile for best ball. Will Shipley, the ultimate stash.
Yep.
Love him. Also, let's see some forgotten guys. Oh, Marshawn Lloyd. There's another Packer, right? Wouldn't mind stashing him at the end of benches, even like deeper.
I would say that's fine. I would also just include Emmanuel Wilson too, though. He kind of proved
either one.
He was the main backup last year, and I mean, who knows if Lloyd is healthy this year? If he is, maybe they do want to give him that role. But I think.
But then there's even like Kendre Miller. Hasn't done anything. Like he could be next year. Like I know they just drafted Devin Neal.
Well, here's one. I know you like Breece Hall so much, but do you also like both of the backups there, Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis?
I like Braylon Allen a heck of a lot more. I've been drafting a lot of him in best ball leagues, and especially like Dynasty Best Ball. I think I did draft him. And then Isaiah Davis, since I already had Allen, I was going to target Davis, and I got so mad that he got sniped for me like 2 picks ahead, and I'm like, why am I getting mad being sniped by Davis? It's because I already had Allen. But like in a normal Dynasty league, I wouldn't think about rostering both. I would just want Allen over the other guy.
I guess in best ball, like exactly that example, you want to take like a lot of correlated bets. You already talked about stacking for like ceiling potential, but like you want to take correlated bets, like get the right guy on an offense. But like in lineup, I want to like if I roster Braylon Allen, I think that at some point Breece Hall could get injured and Braylon Allen steps into the role. And having both, like kind of like you're kind of implying like an outcome that it's like I don't know. You guys,
if you think, well, that's a good point. If you think it's going to be a split backfield, why roster either of them? Because you're not going to know when to start them. Where at least in best ball, the guy that gets the touchdown that random week, you'll capture it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Another one that people
set me up. Noticed. That was a good assist.
Sorry. Do you remember the name Kamani Vidal?
Do I ever?
That's Hank Aaron's great nephew.
Is it? So is this now Vidal season again? Are we back on that? Like everyone was saying about that last offseason?
Like in a seasonal best ball, I probably wouldn't. But in a dynasty best ball, he's one of those type of guys that you could put on the end of your bench, and maybe flip him, drop him for someone else. But like you keep cycling through because he had that one carry for like 120 yards in one play, 5 touchdowns on one play.
So CFL field now we're talking 120. Even actually, that's only 110.
But no, I remember his first touch or whatever, wasn't it? Like
40-yard receiving
play.
Touchdown. Yeah. 40 first NFL touch.
I mean, who knows when that can happen again? But like I'm also rostering all the rookies like Taj Brooks, Woody Marks, Jaquez Hunter, Devin Neal, Brashard Smith. Like, give me all them in Dynasty Best Ball.
Now, it's funny how we talked about backup quarterbacks as targets, but among the starters, does your quarterback rankings change at all when we're going from lineup to best ball? Or even like Dynasty to redraft? Like, is there much? I guess there would be to a certain extent, but let's stick with Dynasty actually. Just a Dynasty lineup versus Dynasty best ball draft. Are your quarterback rankings different at all? At least among the starters.
I mean, I would put Justin Fields higher, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because in a seasonal league or a league that you have to start them, I mean, it could be ugly, but in the Dynasty Best Ball, I'll get him for those top 5.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray is another one.
Well, don't tell me that. I'm already too high in the lineup, apparently.
Like, let's say Daniel Jones. Remember, he would either put up a top 5 week or outside the top 24.
Yeah.
So
both Colts quarterbacks for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably like maybe raise those guys up a little bit. Put them
over like maybe.
Maybe like a Matthew Stafford.
Yeah,
like a Stafford or a Darnold, a Rodgers. I would,
who are going to be like, they're going to start when they're healthy on their teams, but like, are they going to really trouble like top 5 to top like 8 QBs in any given week? It's like,
and you're saying you'd like those guys more than say like a Michael Penix, for instance.
Yeah, of course.
Just to give, we're talking about raising these guys, but I'm also thinking, okay, who's getting lowered? And like that was like the first name that came to me. Would Penix be a guy that you'd lower because a lot of his value is just tied to he's a first rounder, the youth. Like we think there's a long term viability there, but within all those starts, how many spike weeks is he going to get?
Yeah.
Yep. And then so there are a couple tight ends that I like that probably no one is even thinking about, but Luke Schumacher. I call him Shoemaker, but I think it's Schoonmacher.
It
looks. I mean, it definitely looks like it's Schoonmaker, but Dak always targets his tight end. Doesn't matter who it is.
Yes.
If he's the starting tight end at any point, he's going to get targets. We even saw a little bit of that happen last year, to be honest. So we got a kind of a sneak preview of what that looked like.
And I already see people giving up on Ben Sinnott. That's another guy I would like. And
got like the best quarterback in the NFL. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if those guys hit, they can give you a top 5 score one or 2 weeks, Gatskin and Helm. Those are 2 rookies that I wouldn't mind having. And so last year, this is a perfect example. Theo Johnson.
I was just about to say Thomas Fedone, but Theo Johnson seems like the better Giants.
Yeah, like that's a perfect example from last year where like people weren't even looking at this guy, and you can get him for free basically off waivers. Now I think he's going to be a pretty decent tight end going forward. I mean, he's got that athletic profile, right?
Yep.
Finally got some quarterbacks to throw to him.
He's got
I feel like tight end could be one position that, just thinking about it, has just like such significant differences to lineup leagues, because usually just like a platoon of tight ends becomes like so much more of a viable strategy when you don't you don't have to guess which of your 4 target, 5 target a week tight ends is gonna catch the touchdown on that given week, but you could get killed.
Tight end, they're tight end 7 just with a touchdown, right? Like
exactly, yeah.
No, for sure, that's a good point. I think the idea of best ball to really hammer home is that every roster spot really does matter, because like in a 30 player. You've got 30 roster spots, let's say, in a lineup league, and you're moving things around and players on IR, and you don't fill that 30th roster spot in your league. It's probably not a huge deal. Like you probably weren't going that deep in your starting lineup anyway. But in best ball, you absolutely never want to leave a roster spot open, because that one random player that you pick up to fill that roster spot, even if you thought it was, man, this is a hope and a prayer, well, that might come true, that they catch a pass that, like a long touchdown pass, and they see your lineup suddenly. Just that extra point in your lineup over someone else, for instance, and maybe that makes the difference. Like, it really feels like every roster spot really does matter in a best ball, whereas in the lineup, the deeper you get, the back end of your roster matters a little less.
Yeah, so like at the end of my draft, I just finished up recently. I picked up AJ Barner, second-year tight end, and last year. But last year he had a couple weeks where he would have been put into my lineup. I think he had like a three touchdowns all year.
Yeah.
So when he does get that touchdown, he's probably most likely going to be put in my lineup. I was also debating between like Freiermuth and Arroyo, and I decided on Arroyo because he's got that spike potential. But then also 2 rounds later, Freiermuth still fell to me, so I took him.
And I mean, that could be the rookie hype too, right? Like Arroyo might have, and I mean, who knows? Maybe if you didn't take Arroyo, he would have fallen anyway the next round. So it's a really new point. But if he hits early on it with a spike week early as a rookie, that might really increase his dynasty value to the point where you could get a big profit on him too. If Freiermuth spikes, like, does anyone really like? Oh man, this drastically increases his price. It'll be great for your lineup and it'll be great for the points, but it's also we also are playing the dynasty game of valuing these players. We've already talked about trades, and so the retradability of these players too is key. But we have talked a lot about points and roster construction. Jamie, is there are we set for the trade of the week, or is there any other best ball topics you want to get to first?
No, I think we're good. Okay, one more thing. We talked about Tootin. Someone brought up Tootin earlier, right?
Tune, yeah.
So I'm looking at my roster right now that I just drafted, and I took Tootin over Pollard, right? I was debating between two. Again, Pollard fell to me 2 rounds later, and I
Rookie draft guy
got him
versus like
again.
a third contract guy. Like I can kind of
So like Tootin's got that. Remember I said he's a super freak. He's got huge explosiveness, so I figured I'll go.
Saying he's Rick James?
Yeah. Yep.
Or he need not touch that.
So yeah, that's just an example. Like normally, I probably would have went Tony Pollard in a regular dynasty league where I had to set my lineups, but here I went Tootin above him, just in case for those spike weeks.
I mean, he might give you a baseline of certain production right from the get-go. I mean, it could be a split with Etienne, but if ever he takes over, even if it's just for one game, because that's what we saw last year. It's like, okay, Bigsby's the guy this game, but then it might go back to Etienne. Like it always feels like you'll be chasing the results after the fact. With best ball, you kind of get ahead of it. And if Tootin spikes, then he's in the lineup. So that's kind of the whole baseline of that whole joke with Rick James. But, we've dragged that one on. We've droned that one.
Okay, but yeah, let's get to this trade of the week because this is very interesting.
So yeah, big trade of the week here. And now, for those who watched last week, I talked about in a salary cap contract league. We were going to talk about auction drafts as our main topic. I actually ended up making 3 trades, and we combined them to one to like, okay, the before and after end results. And Jamie, we've kind of done something similar here with one of your trades in a Dynasty Best Ball league. So it's a 12-team start 10. I mentioned Best Ball. I didn't mention that in the chat here because we talked so much about the settings. It's a super flex league. There's PPR scoring, but tight ends, there's a tight end premium. The tight ends get 1.75 points per catch. It's a half point for first down, rushing and receiving. It's a quarter point for first down. I didn't put passing. Quarter point for first down passing is what it's supposed to say there. 6-point passing touchdowns and 0.05 for passing yards as opposed to 0.04. So instead of a point every 25 passing yards, it's a point every 20 passing yards. So that's the setup. So JB, do you want to just read through this combined trade, or do you want to walk through each trade individually?
You can go ahead and do it.
Well, essentially, starting with Brian Thomas, a 26 second and a 26 third, and transforming all that into a Mika Igbukah and 2 26 firsts. So the downgrade from Thomas to Igbukah gives 2 pick upgrades, a second to a first and a third to a first. So, JD, do you want to kind of walk us through how this all happened?
Well, yeah, so it was during a startup draft. I believe it started at the pick 205, where the guy traded his 205 and a 26 third rounder for the 403, so moving down 2 rounds, and a 2026 first rounder.
403 startup pick.
Yeah, the 403 startup pick. So the guy made a trade. He picked Brian Thomas there, which I probably would have picked Brian Thomas there also. And then let's see what else happened after that. So that 403 got traded again. So the guy got 403 and a 2026 second, and he took Travis Hunter at the 403, and he traded is 6'10", so moved down 2.5 rounds basically, and got the 2026 first rounder. So it was a Igbukah and a first rounder for Travis Hunter and a second rounder.
And those are rookie picks. Ultimately, it ends up, I think the one thing that I see about this trade is balance in terms of number of assets. They were both trades were 2 for 2, right? And I think, again, the best ball hesitation, no one wants to give up that extra asset. I think these two trades kind of showcase that, right? Like everyone was willing to do these trades and they got completed. I think they probably got completed because it was even number of assets on both sides.
Yeah, normally in a startup, that's how you pretty much want to do it too, or else you have to just.
I mean, if in a startup, you always want to get the extra assets, but it's probably easier to get those types of trades done in lineup than it is in best ball. Where again, everyone's kind of realizing the depth is so important. You're probably less likely to see those types of trades. I'm always of the don't be the one giving up extra assets in startup. Always gain extra assets in startup. Don't straight up just give up a rookie pick for no reason, right? Like get a rookie pick back, even if it's moving down. So I would say,
So
at least everyone kind of did that here. Sorry, JD. No one, I think, like totally got robbed in this trade. Any of the three people.
It'll probably work out. I'm interested to see how the season works out. I kind of projected it where the guy that got Ibuka is going to have a very early. What was it?
26.
No, like a mid first. So Ibuka and a mid first gave up Travis Hunter and an early second. That seems kind of even to me, right?
Yeah, with the of course the upside chance that maybe it's a mid second and it's a full round difference, or heck, maybe even that first becomes early, and that really increases in value. Like that's still that mystery box upside is always definitely appealing.
But the guy that got Brian Thomas, I love this because he gave up, let's say, Travis Hunter and a late 2026 first, because I think that team is one of the best in the league besides mine. So it could be like the 112, 111. So Travis Hunter and a 111 for Brian Thomas, and I think he got back a early third too. So I think he's the one that made out the best. Because you got to remember, Brian Thomas is the best asset in this three-way trade, right?
But does Travis Hunter get just as many spike weeks this year as Brian Thomas Jr.? And that's to that point. The dude who got him got a second on top, as opposed to Brian Thomas got a third. Both of them had to give up first round picks. I really like what the one manager involved in both trades did though. Like I'm gonna trade down essentially 4 rounds in the startup, go from the 2nd to the 6th round, but by doing so, accumulate 2 extra future firsts. And suddenly, assuming they still have their own pick, they've got 326 firsts that they can, Ibuka's, I would imagine it doesn't come close to the production of Brian Thomas Jr. this year, and probably not even Travis Hunter. But can you make up for that and still compete this year? Now that you have 3 extra firsts, it's kind of ammo to go make trades. I think it's definitely a side with a lot of flexibility. And honestly, if things don't go well and the team's rebuilding, well, they're already kind of set up to have those extra assets anyway. So it's certainly a very flexible ability for that team. They can kind of still haven't committed to anything coming out of the startup. They still can kind of move in either direction, and I kind of like that appeal. In theory,
I was going to say, looking at his team in a whole, he's probably going to get the 101 with his pick. He's going to have a mid first with the one guy's pick and a late first with the other guys. So he got 3 picks, all kind of separated from the first round. And he got Ibuka.
Yeah. Like I said, that's kind of an asset that he could have spike weeks here. But I suppose if you really are trying to make your rookie pick next year the 101, moving away from Brian Thomas Jr. to get Emeka Ibuka, that's certainly going to help that. That's a lot less weeks where Thomas is entering your lineup now, where he would have been. Ibuka's probably not hitting your lineup nearly as many times as suddenly that aspect of it. And again, that would have been like the 2nd round pick of the team, right? So this team is dealing with having their first rounder, whoever it is, but then suddenly that big gap of picks from a full 2 rounds before their 3rd round pick, and you're losing out on assets there already. So I suppose from that perspective, again, if this team really can get all the way down to the 101, this trade probably makes a ton of sense. But if either of those other teams are competing, then it probably makes sense for them too. I would say the team in the middle with Travis Hunter, I kind of like that in best ball from the idea of what if Travis Hunter has as many spike weeks as Brian Thomas Jr.? The idea that you move down 2 rounds in the startup value between them, but you got the second back with Hunter as opposed to the third with Brian Thomas Jr. Like giving up your future first, that team is really banking on Brian Thomas Jr. is that key. And certainly I think we all would agree he appears to be, what he did last year is repeatable. If he does that, then that team's probably pretty happy too, even if they gave up their first. But at least with the other team, if Travis Hunter doesn't necessarily work out, having the extra second is probably still a decent enough asset. So
Yeah, and that second, I believe, is going to be that early second. So it could be the 201, 202. So yeah, no, I like that point. We don't get points on defense though in this league, so he's only going to get the offensive points. But still, you're right. What if he does outscore Brian Thomas half the weeks?
I mean, or we have I think both Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter could be wide receiver ones in fantasy football, like at the same time. We just saw that with Liam Cohen doing it, albeit both had injuries, but Godwin and Evans, like points per game, were wide receiver ones. Like Jameson Williams was not a wide receiver one, but it's I mean, I
he came close. He did his best impersonation.
It's a weird trade where I think every team would probably be happy with like what they walked away with, and like maybe in a lineup league, I would feel like Igbuka 2 first, but giving up an early second and early third, like I'd maybe feel a little hard done by that. But now it's Igbuka and 2 first-round picks who could be assets that you don't really need to ever jam into your lineup because they'll hit your lineup. So I feel like it's a rare win-win-win here.
We thought the internet finally failed, and it was going good all episode too. So right at the end, that hammer point on this trade. But yeah, tough to gauge. So Jamie, being in this league and being in this startup, I guess you were saying you thought that the Brian Thomas Jr. team made out the best just because that is the best asset, and they weren't again giving up extra assets to make it happen, right? Okay, you're giving up a first, but you are getting that extra pick back, even if it is just a third, but to at least have the quantity of assets be equal to get the best asset and not give up extra assets probably does make sense.
Yeah, so like right now he kind of went all in and he gave up next year's first rounder for an elite piece that is going to be used now. So looking at it that way, he's more likely to win than the guy that got the Igbuka and the 2 first.
All right, so that's did we give it our best, guys? Was that our best effort to talk about Dynasty Best Ball? I did my best not to overuse that joke throughout. So I am very proud of myself. No one has to clap. You can't.
Well, you know, Kyle is the best host, so.
And we always have a ball on these shows.
Yes, we do.
You're both the best now. That was the best combination possible. Thank you, guys. But thank you, Jamie, for enlightening us so much on Best Ball. And now we'll be able to give it our best effort if we ever do join Dynasty Best Ball leagues, as will all the listeners, I'm sure. Some people might not even known Dynasty Best Ball was a thing. You figured it was okay. Best Ball is just a charity tournament thing. You draft and you forget it. But the idea of Dynasty Best Ball, the best ball scoring is there. Your best lineup is set for you every week. But the roster management, some of our favorite parts of Dynasty, that's all still there and still available. So love it. Thought we did a great job, guys. Good job.
Yeah, fun show.
Yeah, great episode. I do want to leave with a contender for what could be a term that I would like coined and credited to myself. But as best ball is when, your best possible lineup hits your league, I think worst ball should be the term used for, how rookie picks are decided on like reverse max points for. I always call that worst ball. It is literally the worst team at best ball is how rookie picks are decided. So the next time you guys commission your leagues, please say we are using worst ball to decide.
I actually like
rookie draft order is not just the standings. We're using worst ball scoring.
Worst balls.
Right now it's called max potential 4 MPF.
Yeah, but the reverse order of
MPA, it's usually for the rookie picks. Yeah, so I'm gonna go into all mine right now. I have whole bylaw is written. I'm going to change. It's not the lowest max points for. It's going to be worst ball.
There we
I
go.
love it.
Exactly.
Well, now we're really making progress here, but you can progress through all of the great fancy six.
Kyle froze.
Sorts of great articles, rankings, access to some great tools as well, all courtesy of the Fantasy Six Pack family. Joe Bond, founder, creator. Also, he's working pretty hard this year, making sure we've got tons of great content, tons of great articles. I've already talked about the AFC South articles as well.
Like Fantasy Six Pack has some of the best analysts in the game.
The best ball analysts, at least football, at least fantasy.
All the balls,
They have the best golf
balls.
Sure.
They do baseballs.
I mean, best ball really is a golf term, actually. I'm glad that we've adopted it. There was no golf show this week. Hopefully Keith Fleming is back next week and everything is going great. But for that, like we'll use a golf term. I mean, maybe it'll scramble your brain here a little bit. I was talking about this, but Two Off the Tee, great show on the Fancy Six Pack YouTube podcast network. So whether you're listening to audio or watching the YouTube videos, that's great. Joe, AJ, they're currently doing a lot of baseball stuff. There's tons of baseball content appearing every week, and the betting guys, the Parlay FF show. I just guested it on the show on Monday. They're coming back with their episodes maybe more regularly starting soon. So look for that as well. Again, all on the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe, like all the videos, comment underneath. Again, comment under this one. Whatever player we were searching for earlier and couldn't remember, the week one darling that goes off every week one. Hit them up and write about them. And I guess you can also hit us up on social media. I'm at Senra Says, Rahul's at Small Talk FF, and Jamie Perog with the best ball name is at Jamie Perog. Why would he change anything different?
Yeah, so you can even DM me for trade targets or just to brag about your roster. But also, if you enjoyed this show, it's best to leave us a 5-star rating. Share it with your leagues, or don't. Keep the edge. But we prefer you to share it.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, Jamie, too. Yes. Yeah. Again, subscribe where you can, rate and review where you can. And, whenever we can, we'll be back here, which, again, we can do this on every Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Any final parting words, Rahul?
Great show, guys. And Jamie, next Dynasty Best Ball startup, please invite me. I think you've sold me. Kyle's already got me in a Dynasty auction salary cap, so I think it's time for me to join your way as well. So hit me up. But thanks everyone for watching, and thanks to you both for another great show.
Nice. So, well, for me, until next time, just stack those spikes, flip those floors, and then always play for ceiling.
Awesome alliterations there, Jamie. And we'll be back with more awesome alliterations and more horrible puns and jokes from me on the next episode of Dynasty Six Pack. Goodbye for now.